Come stai?
Bene, grazie. Bene, grazie. Hi.
I'm super happy to have you, and I want to welcome you to UFO Disclosure Bulgaria. You'll be one of the speakers over there. So, I mean, we're going to talk for everything, and you are something like a part of that. I mean, you're the legend of history connecting with the UFOs. You know so many people. You interview so many people.
But mostly I'm international, and that's the good part, Ivan, because what happens here in the States is they think that ufology is just American. And it's not. The phenomenon is all over the world. And I did a lot of work in Italy, so the phenomena is in Italy. And, you know, and it's in South America, and it's in France, and it's in Bulgaria, and it's in Russia, and it's everywhere. And I think the mistake we make is that we think that it's only here. And when you look at it as a phenomena that isn't on the planet, it's the planetary phenomenon. You know that whatever is visiting, you know, like Clifford Stone calls it our visitors, whatever is visiting is giving us a message.
What made you to start looking for UFOs? What was the reason?
Well, because I saw Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the movie, and I was teaching a class in science fiction, and I went to Illinois, and I met Dr. J. Allen Hynek, who is the astronomer that was the consultant to Spielberg. And I remember at the very end of the movie, it made me upset. I was very emotional. I started to cry, and I didn't know why. So when I went to meet with Alan Hynek, he said, "You're Italian, will you work with me?" And right away I worked with him from 1980 to 1986, and now I'm working with Jacques Vallée, who is the Frenchman. So I believe that this was my destiny, because I think that we have a destiny, and I'm a journalist. I'm not a ufologist. And my job, Ivan, is just to record and put it in a book and ask questions. Yes, that's it. Nothing else.
Yeah.
Because really, we don't know the story. We don't know what's happening. And so my job, and I'm good at it, is just to be the person who interviews and asks questions.
You've been with Colonel Corso.
No, that was an accident, because my office in Rome, I was living in Italy. I lived in Italy from 1992 to 2007 when I came back. And my boss, Maurizio, said, go and cover the 50th anniversary of Roswell, and go find this man, Colonel Corso, because he wrote a book. Well, when I went, I didn't really want to go, because I didn't know what he looked like. I didn't know anything. And by accident, I had the room in the hotel next to Colonel Corso. So when Colonel Corso met me, he said, I know you. I've seen you before. And I thought, oh my God, here it is. And Colonel Corso never spoke much in the United States. He really spoke in Italy, because there was a court case against the book here. He was suing the people that did the book. And so we in Italy had him twice, and I was the journalist that was closest to him. So I've written a book called Conversations with Colonel Corso, and it is in French, Italian, Spanish, and English. And it is like what you're doing now, a tape recording of everything he told me. And what I understood, Ivan, was that the reason why it's secret is not the aliens or religion. It's because the military-industrial complex is taking the back-engineered technology, and it's secret. And
He saw this little man in the hangar.
not in the hangar. He saw him in White Sands coming out of a cave. 1957. He saw a being, and he saw the craft.
Did he tell you more details about this?
Yes.
Because he said, I mean, I know that he said, when they opened it, I saw something small bodies.
No. That's not what happened. That was Fort Riley, Kansas. That was 1947 in Fort Riley, Kansas, when he saw a body, and the body was in a coffin type liquid. In 1957, he saw a being at the White Sands Missile Range that was alive that talked to him. No. Yes. Actually, he had a silver band and a red stone right here. The being.
Oh, okay.
And the being was a little man. And
Not great.
no, he had a what do you call it? A helmet. And Colonel Corso, when he was at White Sands, was told to shut down the radars during the day because the radars would interfere and craft would crash. When Colonel Corso saw that there was a craft there, he went there with his Jeep, with his car. He was alone. And he saw the craft appearing and disappearing. It was appearing and disappearing. And the little man came out with the helmet, and not all aliens are grays, came out. And he said to Colonel Corso, could you please shut down the radar and let me go? And Colonel Corso said, took out his gun actually, he said he took out his gun and pointed it. And he said, friend or foe, which means friend or enemy. And the being said, I'm not either. I'm not your friend, I'm not your enemy. And Colonel Corso said, if I let you go, what will you give me? And the being said, a new world if you can take it. And so when I met Colonel Corso, I did not want that interview. I wanted about the medals and everything he had, and he was working at the Pentagon.
So he gave you this medal?
No, when he was working in 1963 at the Pentagon, General Trudeau gave him a tray with all the Roswell pieces, a pen, a long pen, fiber optics and stuff. The encounter that Colonel Corso had with this being was 1957, and the being told him a new world if you could take it. So Colonel was obsessed with this contact. It was not an abduction, it was contact. And when he saw me, and I wanted the interview about I wanted the interview about the fiber optics and all that he was working with, he didn't give me that interview. He gave me the one about the contact. And I said, I don't want this interview, because if I print this, they're going to think you're crazy. And he goes, no, Paula. And he wrote down on a napkin, a new world if you can take it. So I want people to understand that when we have a real knowledge of who we are on this planet, it is a new world. And we will change as a species. But that wasn't the interview I wanted. I never even printed that interview until he died. When he died, then I thought it's not going to hurt him. But if I had printed it then, they would have thought he was crazy. So some of the most important people in the world have had contact, including Colonel Corso, including a lot of people have had real contact. Because I think whoever is visiting is trying to send a message, whether they be a military man or an astronaut or, whoever. They're sending messages to people.
And what is the message? Is the same message or different message?
No, I think the message is that our technology is is very advanced, but our spiritual growth doesn't match our technology. In other words, we're not responsible.
So we have to grow for spiritual.
Yes. Otherwise, because then both come together. You know, they both come together, and then we become responsible. And we're not here to do technology. We weren't born to do just technology. We weren't here to do atom bombs. We were not here just to develop weapons of mass destruction. We're not here for that reason. We're here for a much more important reason. And I think that they have to keep reminding us. They remind us and remind us and remind us.
And then the other man, Kennedy, the former Minister of Defense, Canada.
Yeah, he read Corso's book, and he began to look at this, and he began to look at it very seriously. And where everybody was laughing before, you know, and thinking this was entertainment and it was a lot of fun, and when the Minister of Defense starts talking, then he made it serious. He made it serious. And he said basically that that our economy on this planet is based on this advanced technology, and that it's secret. And like Stephen Greer, whom I admire greatly, said in the 1950s we had anti-gravity. But Paul Hellyer, like Stephen Greer, says, you know, we need to release these technologies, including medical technologies. We need to release them to the people. So this becomes a very serious subject then. It becomes serious. It's not just about UFOs.
Yeah. Did they have a program for researching the UFO program? The Ministry of Defense?
No, not for Paul Hellyer. But they had a scientist named Wilbur Smith. And Wilbur Smith was involved with UFOs. And he talked to Colonel Corso. And he said to Colonel Corso, "You're so lucky you've had contact," he said. He said, "I know this is real," because he's a scientist. And I think any more people should start listening to scientists.
Yeah, of course.
And it shouldn't be just media personalities or entertainment people in the UFO field or people. Scientists, the real astronomers and the scientists. And I really recommend everybody read Jacques Vallée's books. Because if they read Forbidden Science 1, 2, 3, and 4, and they read everything that he wrote, he's 80 years old right now, they will realize that all the truth is in those books. He's been doing this most of his life, and he has no agenda, and instead of going on internet and getting all this, you know, fear-mongering craziness that nobody does any research, I think that they should start reading Jacques Vallée, Alan Hynek, Edgar Mitchell. Edgar Mitchell's book, The Way of the Explorer, is fantastic. You know, and I, in my house, have 300 books, and I've read all of them because I have to read them because that isn't research I do. Like, for instance, I don't do crop circles. I don't do certain things, and I have to look at the whole piece of all of it. And the only way that I could do that is read everybody's book on what they discovered.
How you met Dr. Edgar Mitchell? How you make that connection?
He was a wonderful man. Oh Lord, I went down to Roswell. I asked him for an interview. He you know, he was born in Roswell.
Yeah, I know.
I went down to Roswell to do an interview with him, and I spent a lot of time with him. And at dinner, I asked him, I said, "Do you think people are ready for, disclosure?" And he goes, "No." He said, "They're not ready for disclosure," because he said, the humanity has to come together as one humanity. They can't be the Chinese and the Japanese and the Americans and the Russians. He said, because we need one world together. So when they come, they are talking to one species, and humans aren't ready for that yet. I remember my interview with him, and then I spent a lot of time with him at the Washington Press Club, because I did the X conference with Stephen Bassett, and we would sit together and we would talk, and he trusted me, and I had his book, The Path of the Explorer, translated into Italian, and I wrote the preface for that book. I wrote the beginning, and he was very interested in the paranormal. He examined Uri Geller. I mean, there's a story in that book where Edgar Mitchell, Hal Puthoff, and Russell Targ are eating ice cream, and Edgar Mitchell in his in Uri Geller's ice cream is a tie clip from Edgar Mitchell had lost a long time ago. It's in the ice cream. And then they went back to the office because it was Edgar Mitchell that was interested in psychic abilities. And from the ceiling fell the other piece of the tie clip from the ceiling. Now, when you have these weird things happening, you understand, like Jacques Vallée says, that this is dimensional and paranormal. It is not just people coming from other planets. So I really admire Vallée because he covers all of it. He covers the paranormal, the dimensional, that kind of thing. You can't just do visitors from other planets and that's it. It's very strange phenomenon. And as you know, because of the strange things that have happened to you, that it's when strange things happen to us, they are messages. You know that.
Yeah. Did he mention, I mean, Dr. Mitchell, did he mention for you if he saw something unusual over there?
No, he had a spiritual experience, and he told me about that. When he was out in space, he looked at the stars and he lost feeling of his body. He was one with the universe. It was what you call, I think in India, samadhi. It was an epiphany that I am the stars, I am one, I don't have a body. And I think that was a gift for him because I think that then he came back, he wasn't an astronaut or an engineer, because he was an engineer. And he started the noetic sciences. And that is a contribution.
In California?
Yes, at Petaluma. And I've spoken twice for them. That's all he was interested in. That's all. But his fellow astronauts had experiences in space, and they told him.
Yeah.
They told him because they had things following the Apollo missions. They had
Even after?
Yeah. And they had all kinds of things, and so they told him. But he himself did not.
Yeah.
But he did a lot of good because people believed him, just like Paul Halyard, because of who they are. So Paul Halyard, former defense minister, Edgar Mitchell, Apollo 14. You know, these are people that are heroes. Even these are heroes, like Clifford Stone.
Yeah.
They're not media person. They're not media movie star ufologists. These are people that really have made it serious. And so I'm a little, disappointed because most of my work now is in Latin America. I just want to go with the real stuff. I don't want to go with the Hollywood,
Right.
Conference stuff. I want to go and speak to the people.
With real people.
With real people, yeah, because, I was with Ricardo in Peru. I was with him in Peru, and I was near the mountain of Huascaran, where the Apunians of the base.
Yes, exactly. I'm going to ask you about this. You said in that movie, I mean, maybe not everything, but you said that you feel something super different. You said the mountain talking to you.
Talking to me. Yeah, but I was in a bed and breakfast, and under the mountain, and the old lady and the man that were in the bed and breakfast, I went over and I said, "Did you ever see the people that live there?" And she said, "Oh yes, once. My children were small, and they came down and they talked to my children." And I said, "Oh my God, you're kidding." And she said, "They're space people." And I said, "Oh, they talk to your children?" And they said, "Yeah, when they were in bed, they came into the bedroom and they talked to my children." And I thought, she's not lying, because she doesn't want to go on television. She doesn't want to be conferences. She doesn't care about money. She's telling the truth.
They've been like humans?
Oh yeah, most 90% of what's out there is human.
Ricardo said that they are from our future.
Yes.
Is that us in the future?
That's us in the future. Well, what happened was a disaster on Earth, and they had to take the children off the planet, which I've heard over and over again. And the children's DNA was common to their DNA, so they were, compatible. But for people that can't understand this, we live on multiple timelines. And the line is going. And if something changes, the line just changes. And what they are hoping is that we don't do what has already happened. And if they work hard enough, it won't happen.
Before to move to Dr. Alan Hynek, can you share with us your experience in Shasta?
I don't.
What happened there?
Well, what happened there was that I was interviewing Luis Fernando Mostarrio from Bolivia. I was interviewing Sisto Paz Wells from Peru. I was interviewing all these Latin American contactees. Enrique Villanueva.
Are they from Rama?
Who? Rama. Well, they're not all Rama. Ricardo isn't Rama. I think that Sisto and Enrique are, but Luis Fernando is not. So, anyway, of all the people, the only one who read my book was Ricardo, because Ricardo's a researcher who reads everything. And he read my book in Spanish. It's called Exopolitica. And I had a great interview with him, but Ricardo travels the world. So from Mongolia, he texted me and said, my contact, who is a 10-foot tall man from Mapu, his name is Antarel, wants to meet you in Shasta. And I thought he was crazy. I said, no, he wants publicity. I'm not going to camp in Shasta with people who are speaking Spanish the whole time. I'm not going to do it. And then he texted me from Malaga in Spain, and he said, no, Paola, you have to go to Shasta. You have been invited. And I thought, I don't camp, and I didn't realize that they didn't eat. They were fasting. I didn't, because I was there 3 days and there was no food. And so
3 days without food.
They're fasting. When you fast, you don't have the distraction of digesting and eating and falling asleep. And so this was a very spiritual experience. However, I was not too good because I don't sleep well in freezing cold tent, and I couldn't wait till it was over. So the last day, the way Ricardo works is that he knows the time that they fly. All the time, he knows the exact time. So he said, if they fly over at 8:30, and I couldn't wait to go home. It was Sunday. I couldn't wait. I said, I can't wait to go home. I can't do this anymore. He said, if they fly over at 8:30, he said, Antarel is here. So at 8:30, I'm looking and 2 UFOs fly over, and I just let it go. Because I've been with Stephen Greer, I've been C5, I've done that. But they did fly over. And he walked over to me and he said, just like Colonel Corso, he said, Antarel is in the forest, can you handle it? And world, if you can take it, can you handle it? Will you be okay? Can you go down there? I had 1 minute to answer, 1 minute. And I said, okay. And he goes, well, you're going to go down with Suyapa and Mercedes. And they're Spanish. Latin American people, and everybody else is too. There were 2 women down there. There was his wife and my interpreter, who was Italian, because I had to have an interpreter the whole time. She was Italian, Corina. And so there were 5 women, and Ricardo said, wait. He says, you can't use a flashlight, but he said, from the ground is going to come a cloud of mist. It's called the Zendra, and you stand in there.
Like a plasma?
No, it was like a mist, fog, like fog. And it was fog, and it was on the ground, and I saw it, and he says, you can hold the hand of Mercedes and Suyapa. He says, but when you get there, you let go of the hands, because each one of you will have a separate experience. So that was the most terrifying of all. I walked down there and I had to let go of Mercedes' hand. It was the worst feeling, because I'm holding on to somebody. I know that they're there, but when I have to let go, I'm not alone. So I got down there and I saw this 10-foot tall, very, very, very tall giant kind of person standing he was standing against a tree. I saw him twice. I saw him also in 2015, but in 2015 I could see his yellow. He had blonde hair and beautiful almond eyes. In 2014, the first time I saw him, he had a hoodie on, you know, like a hood, a gym outfit, like he'd just come out from the gym. So I saw his long face, I saw his eyes, but he had a hood on, like a hoodie, like he'd just been in a gym. And he spoke to me constantly. I mean, but in a language I didn't understand, because I didn't understand it.
In your mind? Or
No, outside. No, it was outside. I thought, you know what it sounded like in Europe? We have these cars that go around the towns and with the loud bullhorn and say, "We will sharpen your knives, we will clean your house," and everything. He sounded like he had a bullhorn. It was echo, a lot of echo, and I thought everybody heard it. I mean, I thought everybody's hearing this because it was echo. It was not in my head. It was outside, but I couldn't understand what he was saying. And then they told me it was Irdin, which is an ancient language, and soul sings in that language, Irdin. But at the very end, at maybe 3 minutes, in English, like a robot, he said, "Thank you." And then he turned around. One time he just turned around and he walked back into the forest. Now, I'm not the only one that saw him.
So you saw him like he just left or disappeared?
He just left. No, he walked. He walked back in there. But I don't know if he walked on the ground. I can't tell you.
Because of the fog?
Yeah, you could. No, there was no fog where he was. It was just fog where we were.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if he was floating or he just walked, but he walked. He turned around like a man and walked back.
Yeah.
But once, I mean, he did like. We turned around slowly. He went like that way,
fast,
really fast, and he had on boots. I remember the boots. He had on a space outfit, but like a gym part, the gym, you know, with the hood. And I was very confused because I heard the "thank you," and I thought I was crazy. I said, "Am I crazy? Did I hear that in English? Is that English? Am I crazy?" And so then we all went to Ricardo, and Ricardo said, "What happened?" And I think he said, "Thank you." And Ricardo said, "That is not for your work in the past. That's for the work you're going to do in the future." So that's very interesting. He said, all the work you're going to do in the future, that you're going to represent the space people who are coming here to try to help us. And that was very interesting because I never think of a thank you of the past, all the stuff you did. But I have done since 2014, I've done a lot of work. I've been to the Atacama Desert twice with contact. I've been to Argentina.
Personal or?
Yeah, well, yeah, because the craft. Oh, that was when Ricardo disappeared, and they came off the ship to speak to him in the sand dunes. But I could see the ship, and I could also see them on the other side of the mountain, standing there. It's
so far.
Oh, way far. But they have these suits that have sparks. I don't know what to tell you. Sparky stuff. But we had to meditate for 2 hours before the ship came, and Ricardo went to speak to Ivica. But we were there to support all that. That was the first time. The second time I ended up walking in the middle of the desert to a spot where I'm positive they were going to land. But this is in Chile, in the Atacama Desert. So I've been to Chile. I've been to Argentina. I gave a lecture in Argentina. I've been to Monte Perdito in Pyrenees, and there was contact there because Ricardo, when he puts everybody together, and he knows what time. It's amazing. It's amazing. I've never seen anything like this, and I never expect anything to happen. But like you were telling me your story, I went to Crestone and I heard my name called in the room. And then my phone dials by itself, and paranormal happens around contact all the time. So my job is just one, Ivan. just to record. That's it.
Yeah.
Just to record what happens and just to interview people.
Yeah.
And so that's all I do. And then we did a movie in Peru last year. And you saw that part because I got to see a Huascara. And I got to see Yungay. And the story of the Apunians, for people who will read Ricardo's books in English because we had them translated, is that back in the 1970s in Peru, Vlado Kapitanovich, who was the head of a hydroelectric plant, met with the Apunians because they came down and said that you're going to have an earthquake in about a month, and you need to move the people because the half of Huascaran is going to fall right on the city, and 45,000 people will die. You know that story.
Yeah,
they would read that. So, and so Kapitanovich went to the authorities and said, "There's going to be an earthquake, and you might tell them."
Don't believe him.
They didn't believe him. The mountain fell. 45,000 people died. And when we went to do the film on Ricardo, I walked over their graves. I walked over. They didn't bury them individually because it was an earthquake, and they just put dirt all up. And I'm walking over the graves of all these people, and people who don't believe in ETs. Come on. They were warned because these people could see the future. And I'm sitting there in Yungay going, oh my God, all these people buried, and they were told to move them from the, So I've lived the reality of the life with these. I mean, Latin America is so rich with stories but they don't think anything of it. I mean, if an ET comes up and talks to you, they go, hello, how are you? Do you want coffee? I mean, it's normal there. Mm-hmm. Here it's some big deal. It's so.
Okay, 1 moment. You've been very close to Dr. Alan Hynek, maybe during this project, Blue Book?
No, it wasn't during Blue Book.
Or after that?
No, it was way after that. All the cases that weren't explained, Alan took from Blue Book and brought them to his house.
Okay.
And so he started the Center for UFO Studies. And that was an association like MUFON. Okay? So the Center for UFO Studies is called CUFOS. It still exists today. So when I walked into CUFOS in 1980, I didn't ever expect to see Alan Hynek. I'd seen Close Encounters. I wanted to see the files. I wanted to see what they had. So the secretary talked to me, and I told her, I said, I'm Italian. And she said, wait a minute. And from around the corner came this man with a pipe. I'll never forget it, with white hair. And he said, I hear you speak Italian. And I said, I do. And he goes, would you work with me? And I worked with him until 1986 when he died of a brain tumor. I cried and cried and cried. And I didn't want to do any more UFO work because it was hard.
Yeah.
But all that time he'd come to Boulder here. He'd be at my house. I would drive him around. He would go to the University of Denver. He would go different places. And then I would go to his house, and his wife Mimi and Paul. Paul was a teenager. I remember Paul, and Paul remembers me. It's like I'm part of the family. And I remembered what Alan taught me when Alan taught me was to listen, not to make judgments. Just listen to the people.
Right.
Just listen, he said. Because at that time, I thought people were crazy that said, oh, I was taken by. I said, they're crazy, these people. And he'd say, no, listen.
Mm-hmm. So he was convinced.
He didn't do a whole bunch. I think what convinced Alan Hynek was the Lonnie Zamora case in Socorro, Mexico. That convinced him because that had physical traces. And I remember, Close Encounter of the First Kind is sighting. Close Encounter of the Second Kind is physical traces. The Lonnie Zamora case, that craft, actually the feet of the craft went in the dirt so they can measure the dirt, how deep it was. There was there were flecks of something on the rocks. That was Close Encounter of the Second Kind. Close Encounter of the Third Kind is when you have contact. And so the movie was Close Encounters of the Third Kind. So Alan made those differentiations. He made those classifications. Alan was a scientist. And Alan, I think, he was an astronomer. I remember walking down the street with him in New Mexico, and he said, Paula, he said, don't ever mistake Venus for a UFO.
Very bright.
Yeah, so I said, no, Alan, I won't do that. But, you know, it's, when you work with a scientist, and I'm working with Jacques Vallée too, you know that this is real. It's just that it's been made into an entertainment industry. And it's been made into Disneyland. And so we don't have science involved anymore. And it's difficult. It's difficult. And so what I prefer to do is to take the testimonies of people in Latin America, Italy, places I've been, and just, you know, we don't know about them here because we only know 4 or 5 cases and they become famous and that's it. But if you go to other countries and you ask them about contact, you get so many stories.
How is the situation in Italy?
The same as here. There's one case that I want to finish. It's called the Pier Fortunato Zanfretta case. And Zanfretta was a security guard in Genoa when these beings, 15 tall beings, they're not reptilian, but they had scales, gave him a box to give to Alan Hynek. And I've been to the mountain where Zanfretta meets these people. I've been to the mountain, and what they do is they make him put his forehead against a sphere, and he sees monitors of what he's done in the last month. So I think that they're just so ugly and so weird looking that they can't monitor humanity, but what they do is take Piero's memories, they take them out of his brain, they put them on a monitor, and they see how humans live. And Piero, it's been, my goodness, Piero is now in his 60s, so I think it's been like 47 years that he's had this contact. And I really think this story should come to the United States. And a book has been written about it by Rino Di Stefano called the Zanfretta case. And actually, I went on the mountain where I went there. Scary, because he goes at 1 o'clock in the morning, and I saw the drop, and I saw how dangerous it is, and I can't see how he could walk on that path at 1 o'clock in the morning. But police have followed him. There is a footprint of the beings. The beings took him in his car, put it in a tree. So if people would study international cases, they'd know how amazing this case is. And so nobody from America has followed except Wendell Stevens. Wendell Stevens is the only researcher in all of the United States that covered international cases like that. And of course, Alan Hynek never got the box because he didn't believe it and nobody went to get it. But the box evidently was meant for Alan Hynek. And he, of course, Piero didn't know who Hynek was. He was a security guard. He never probably went through 5th grade. Yeah. He didn't know anything. So there's some really, really interesting cases out there that people bothered to study. They would, look at it. So just like Clifford Stone.
Do you know Mr. Pinotti?
Just like Clifford, I'd rather not comment on Pinotti. Just like Clifford Stone told me that when he was 10 years old, his mom used to have the neighbors come in to do readings because the kid was so psychic. She used to charge $10 for all the neighbors to come in. I'm going, Clifford, you're kidding. I hope you talk about this because Clifford was chosen to do crash retrieval. They knew he was psychic. I mean, if his mother's charging $10 to get the future from his child, somebody out there knew something that was going on with Clifford. And Clifford's story is amazing, and Clifford has tried for the longest time to tell people, of course 3 of his cases were in Vietnam, and he's been trying to tell them that the visitors are benign, which means neither good nor bad. They're not bad. They're here because they were watching the Vietnam War. They're watching, just like with Zanfretta, who puts his forehead against the glass so that they can take out the memories of what's going on the planet. This planet is being observed. It's being observed by not reptilians, greys, and Nordics, 3 people, 3 categories, by 57 different species.
Maybe more.
Maybe more, but the manual that Clifford had 57 different first aid for 57 different species, and our community has just one. You don't want to kill him. So if there's 57 different species, you want to tell me why we only have reptilians, greys, and Nordics? I mean, what kind of ignorance that is? People don't do this study like a university study. They don't read anything. They don't study international. We've come back to 3 different types, and that's ridiculous. So I'm interested in, I mean, even though the Apunians are blonde, they have brown eyes. They don't have blue eyes. So I don't understand. I don't understand how lumping them all together like that and making these kinds of judgments really makes us understand the whole entire phenomenon. I would like to see this in the universities. I would like to see a real intelligent study done on all of it.
What Bulgarians and Europeans can expect from this conference 2021?
Different opinions.
What they can expect of this?
Different opinions.
Different opinions.
Yeah.
From credible people.
I'm not going to say whether they're credible or not. I mean, there's some people I disagree with 100%.
Okay. I mean, Paul Heineck, you, the other guys.
Yeah, no, there are other people that I don't agree with. No, they just need to know that it's, I think in the end, that it's worth studying. Because, I'm a teacher, so I'm going to say, if you want to study anthropology, you better go study anthropology. You want to study geology, study geology. You want to study ufology, study it. Do not go to internet and find all your answers, or go to a conference that's halfway Disneyland and try to get your answers. You need to study it. And so if you take the time and you study it internationally, I would be really happy, because I think the young people need to know these things. I think we need more young people in this field. So everybody has a different opinion, and what it is you have to decide. You decide.
Yeah.
You decide what you think is the real story. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, Paula, for your time, and that was a really pleasure for us.